Well, welcome to First Church. So glad you guys are here for the final week of our You're Invited series. If you're new, my name's Chad. Welcome. So excited that you're here, and we hope that you have a great day as we have State Fair Sunday. And we're going to talk about that here in just a second. Before I do, I just want to welcome in our online family and our modern hymn service as well. I just looked online, and we've got Emily and Campbell and Ashley and a whole bunch of others joining us. So if you are here in the room, would you put your hands together? Welcome in our online family. Let them know we're glad that they're joining us here today. And like I said, it is State Fair Sunday. If you've already looked outside, out back, we've got a whole bunch of stuff out there, a lot of activities, food, all sorts of fun stuff. And you are invited to attend and participate, and it's all on our church. There's no tickets required or money required. You can just go and have a good time with your family. And just to give you a quick preview of some of the stuff we have going on out there, we have funnel cakes out there. So any funnel cake fans? Maria, yeah, all right, yeah. Hey, go there and grab you one. We also have corn dogs. It's not a state fair without a corn dog, right? We also have snow cones, and there are animal rides and other type of rides, as well as a petting zoo. We have a reptile petting zoo, and then we have a farm animal petting zoo, and all sorts of activities and fun stuff. Just make sure you go out back and enjoy everything on us as we celebrate the joy that we have together as a church family in Christ. Now, if you are new here, you might be asking why we do what we do. Well, let me explain that here in just a second. But before I do, I want to get you even more excited about going outside. I want to give you a taste of some of the animals that we have outside. And so I've invited a friend to bring out Dottie, my friend Dottie, who is a baby goat. Yeah, Can we all, okay, on the count of three, let's do a collective all, okay? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Oh, yeah, Dottie's cute. Now, how old's Dottie?
1 month.
1 month old, so just a little baby, but you can go out and you can meet Dottie and a bunch of her friends at one of our petting zoos, and she is precious. And so I've been told she thinks she's a human being, so we can tell that already, right? She has a diaper on, which is probably a good thing because she acts a little scared right now, so I'm glad she has that on. But let's give it up for Ashley and Dottie, and you can make sure you stop and see her and see some of our other animals outside today. So why is it that we're doing this? Why are we having this State Fair Day? Well, the reason why we do this You're Invited series every single year is because of how we see the church. See, we don't believe here at First Church that God ever intended the church to be something boring or stagnant or dull. We believe the church is a community that is full of hope in the midst of a hopeless world. We're a community that is receiving joy from heaven in the midst of the earth's sadness. And we want to share that with everybody because of the life that we have in Jesus. See, if you go back to when Jesus' birth was first announced, I know it's not Christmas time. I know Christmas is like a long time away, but still, just stick with me for a second. If you remember when the angels first announced Jesus' birth to the shepherds who were watching their fields at night, do you remember what they said about Jesus' birth? The angel reassured them, "Don't be afraid," he said. "I bring you good news that will bring great joy to all people." See, the news of Jesus is good for all people everywhere. It is good news for the entire world. And it should bring all people everywhere great joy. It's not a joy that's like a superficial happiness where we just put on a fake smile and act like everything's okay. That's not what the angels are talking about. That's not why Jesus came. Jesus came so we could have this inner joy, this inner peace and contentment that motivates us and drives us and inspires us and gets us through even the tough times, because this world at times can be a tough place to live. But with Jesus, we have something beyond this life to live for. And so we want to share the life that he has given to us with everyone. And that's why we do this Your Invited series. We pick a different theme every single week to illustrate the life that we have in Jesus. And so if you were here for the first week, it was our Tailgate Sunday. The second week was our Labor Day Cookout. Last week was Star Wars Sunday. That was a lot of fun. And today it is State Fair Sunday. And I'm pumped about this because as a kid, my family always went to the State Fair. Now I'm from Kentucky, so we went to the Kentucky State Fair, but we always went to the State Fair. And I have fond, vivid memories of going to the fair with my family. One thing that stands out to me was all the food. I mean, every year I looked forward to the food because they had some awesome stuff there. Yeah, they had funnel cakes and corn dogs and all that stuff like we're gonna have here today, but they also had pulled pork sandwiches there. They had hamburgers there. They had some unique stuff like deep fried Oreos. I mean, those were good, I'm telling you. They had deep fried everything really at the State Fair. And it was a lot of fun tasting all the different food that was there. But out of everything that the State Fair had when it comes to food, my favorite by far was the State Fair corn dog. Because they were made on site, on the fairgrounds, battered and fried right there. They were fresh, they were bigger than a normal corn dog, and they were the best corn dogs in the world. And they also did something unique at the Kentucky State Fair. They didn't just give you a cup of ketchup or mustard for you to dip your corn dog in, or give you a packet to put on there. No, they would paint with a paintbrush the ketchup and mustard on the corn dog for you so that it was evenly distributed on the corn dog. And you could walk around without having to dip or worry about a mess. It was great. It's the best way to eat a corn dog, I promise. Now, I was telling that to some of our staff when we were planning for State Fair Sunday, and they were looking at me like I was an alien or something, like I was crazy. Like, what are you talking about, painting corn dogs? I was like, yeah, but it's awesome. It's the best way. So in case you can't picture what I'm talking about, this is what it looks like. This is actually one of the corn dog booths at the Kentucky State Fair, and they are painting on there the mustard for you to eat. So once you get it painted on, then you just carry it around and eat it. I'm telling you, it is awesome. Anybody ever heard of this before besides me? Am I the only one? Anybody else heard of this? Okay, like 5 people, good Christian people out there who know about this, okay? Yeah, well, in case you haven't heard about it, we're serving corn dogs today, and you're gonna have the option to have your mustard ketchup painted on there for you, okay? You can have that. But like I said, when I first told the staff about it, they were a little bit confused, and when I talked about painting corn dogs, they really had no idea what I was talking about. Take a look at this video. All right, team, I think that about wraps it up. Everybody clear?
Yes.
Good to go? Cool, see you all later then. Oh, Jessica, one other thing. I think it might be good if we did an instructional video for people this week on how to paint corn dogs.
Paint corn dogs?
Yeah, like with ketchup and mustard. It's something we do at the Kentucky State Fair.
Okay, yeah, we'll do it. We'll do a video.
Awesome, love it.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
That's okay.
Hey, Chad wants us to do a video on painting corn dogs.
Painting corn dogs? Who does that?
Right? Can you paint?
No, I can't even paint a wall. But I do know someone. Welcome, dear viewers. Today, we're going to paint a delightful corn dog using our favorite condiments. We'll take a little bit of ketchup, put it on a little yellow, and we're gonna blend those, and then we'll take our mixing brush, and we'll pull some over here into this area, and we'll just try to get a nice color, a little bit more dark for the stick. And we'll just take a little stroke right here, and we'll just move it down like so. Yes, that's so nice right there. Makes me so happy.
This just feels weird, doesn't it?
Oh no, I think he's pretty great. So enjoyable, so beautiful, so fun and relaxing to create and paint.
What's going on?
Oh, we're painting corn dogs like you asked.
No, I meant with an actual paintbrush, you put the ketchup and mustard on the corn dog so that it's evenly distributed.
Oh, that makes sense.
Oh, it's okay, common mistake, I guess. Oh, Jessica, one more thing. When I asked you to wrap up the details on the next series, you know I meant to finish it up, not do a rap to music.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yep.
Okay, just
we're
want to double check.
Tim, cancel the rap. Cancel the rap.
Yeah. We're not gonna win any awards for our acting, but still, we tried, okay? So make sure you get a corn dog that has ketchup or mustard painted on it today. There's one out there for you. One other thing that the State Fair was always known for was all of their exhibits. You know, people would enter things, and there were contests, State Fair judges who would judge anything from, quilts that people would make or baked goods, canned food. They would even show animals, and people would win awards for their animals, their livestock they would show. I had cousins that raised Holstein cows, and they would bring Holstein cows every year to the State Fair. And the goal was to always get a blue ribbon, right? You want to win first place. I don't think my cousins ever did. I think one time, or maybe a couple times, they got like third or second place or whatever. And they were so excited just to get a ribbon at all. And I was thinking about that just the other day. I was like, I wonder where my cousins put those ribbons that they won years ago. Now, I didn't ask them, but now that they're grown, I mean, they were teenagers back then. Now that they're grown and adults and have families of their own, I bet they have no idea where those ribbons are now. You know why I say that? Because I know how I am, I know how you are. Just the other day, my parents called me up and they said, we're cleaning out the basement and you still have junk down here from like 15 years ago that you need to get rid of. And I was like, okay, what's down there? And they said, well, we found 2 totes full of Euro-like trophies and certificates and plaques and ribbons that you've won over the years, sports stuff, school stuff, whatever. What do you want us to do with them? So the last time I was in, I went and I looked at these couple totes that they had, and sure enough, there were old soccer trophies and basketball trophies and school plaques and awards and whatever else. And some of them were like broken and chipped, and they were fading in color because they were just made of cheap plastic and whatever. And it hit me in that moment. There was a time when I proudly displayed all of those trophies and plaques. And I wanted people to see them. And when I received them myself, I got a lot of joy out of them. Like, I had pride that I had earned those things and I was all about them. And now those trophies and ribbons and plaques that I once displayed so proudly and brought me so much happiness are collecting dust in my parents' basement. Chipped, broken, I had honestly forgotten about them. What once brought me so much happiness, I'd forgotten all about. Because the happiness that those things once brought had faded away. Now, we can laugh at little kids when they get excited about getting a little medal or whatever. I mean, I remember my son Alex, the first time he won a medal in a soccer tournament, he slept in it that entire night. You know, he wore it around his neck and slept in it. And we can laugh at kids for getting so excited over awards like that, accomplishments like that. But don't we as adults really do the same thing? Now, our ribbons and medals and trophies are a lot more expensive, and they take longer to get sometimes, and they use up a lot of our time, energy, and resources. But they're still things that we chase after, thinking that such goals or achievements or accolades will bring us some sense of satisfaction, some sense of contentment, some sense of happiness in life. And here's the thing, we can chase after one desire after the next, and we can chase after one goal after the next, and one relationship after the next. We can chase after the new job, and we can chase after more money, and we can chase after the new home and car, thinking that those things will bring us happiness, and they might for a short period of time. But you guys know that the happiness that those things bring in and of themselves, they eventually fade. They're like trophies, ribbons, collecting dust in someone's basement. And it hit me as I thought about all this, how so many people live life without any real purpose. They live life just moving from one desire, one thrill, one buzz to the next until that wears off. And then they're ready to move on to the next thing. And they really live with no lasting sense of contentment and peace and satisfaction in life. And once they get what they think will bring them happiness, they have it for a moment and then it's gone almost as soon as it arrives. If you don't believe me that that's the case, just listen to some of the song lyrics that have been put out there over the years. I mean, think about the band Kansas. Remember what they sang? All we are is dust in the wind. In other words, there's no real purpose to this life. We're just dust in the wind. Here one day, gone the next. So we better make the most of this one life that we have because we're just dust in the wind. Here one day, gone the next. I mean, Reba McEntire sang, is there life out there? And what was she saying? Is there life beyond my family and my home? Is there life beyond this normal life that I have accepted? Is there life beyond what I have settled for right now? Is there more life out there somewhere? And what about U2, their famous lyrics? I still haven't found what I'm looking for. I've searched all over, I've searched the earth, I've tried everything, and I still haven't found what I'm looking for. We live in a world where people move from one toy to the next, one job to the next, one desire to the next, one election cycle to the next, one trophy to the next, one bed to the next, hoping that something will satisfy their souls. And they just come up empty time and time again because they're looking for lasting satisfaction in all the wrong places. Now, we're not the first generation to ever have this struggle. I think the human race has been struggling with this since sin first entered the world. And way back almost 3,000 years ago, there's a guy named Solomon who had this same struggle. And Solomon, well, if anybody tried it, did it, had it, it was Solomon. And as an old man looking back at his life, at everything that he'd achieved and everything that he'd accomplished, listen to what Solomon says. But as I looked at everything I had worked so hard to accomplish, it was all so meaningless. Like chasing the wind. There was nothing really worthwhile anywhere. Now, when Solomon says, I looked back at everything I achieved, Solomon had really achieved a whole lot. I mean, Solomon was king of Israel. So not only was he king of a nation, he was the king of God's nation. And God richly blessed Solomon by giving him great wisdom. In fact, 1 Kings tells us this about Solomon's wisdom. God gave Solomon very great wisdom and understanding and knowledge as vast as the sands of the seashore. I just want a little grain of sand of knowledge, But he had knowledge as vast as all the sand on the seashore. In fact, his wisdom exceeded that of all the wise men of the East and the wise men of Egypt. He was wiser than anyone else on earth. His fame spread throughout all the surrounding nations. So God gave Solomon wisdom, and Solomon for a while used that wisdom for God's purposes, and he gained more wealth, more status, more power, more prestige, more influence on the earth. And the kingdom of Israel grew and grew and grew. Solomon was on top of the world, so much so that 1 Kings chapter 10 tells us King Solomon excelled all the kings of the earth in riches. He was the wealthiest man alive. Solomon had it all. And yet, he gets to the end of his life and he says, this has all been meaningless. Why? Well, just because you have wisdom doesn't mean that you're going to use it. The smartest people sometimes do some not so smart things, don't they? Let me put it this way. Just because we know better doesn't mean we do better. And that's Solomon. God gave Solomon wisdom, but it was Solomon's choice whether or not he used that wisdom. And he chose not to use it. In case you didn't get this, let me word it another way. Knowing and doing are not the same thing. And Solomon, he had wisdom, but he started to get distracted by all of his stuff. His power, his influence, his wealth, his possessions. He started to get distracted. And he started to put all of his stock in his stuff to where he started to find his value, his meaning, his purpose in life in his stuff. And when you start to put your value and meaning, find your value and meaning in your stuff, then in order to find more value and more meaning, you have to continue to get more stuff. So Solomon lived with this mindset, more is better. Because he would get stuff and then the buzz would wear off. It's like, okay, I got to get more stuff. And then the buzz would wear off of that. I got to get more stuff. I just have to get more and more and more. You guys may have heard the famous quote by J.D. Rockefeller. A reporter once asked him, how much is enough money? You remember his response? Just a little bit more. Because you never have enough. You always want a little bit more. And that was Solomon. So Solomon lived his life asking the question, what's next? Okay, I got this, now what's next? And I got that, okay, what's next? And I got that, okay, what's next? Because eventually, the happiness that the things of this world bring us fade away. And our souls are still longing for something more. Our souls still feel empty. So we continually ask the question, what's next? And our culture is full of people who are regularly asking the question, what's next? Because they have the house that they've wanted. They're driving a car that's nice. They have a family. They have a job. They have what they thought would make them happy, and yet they're still asking, there's got to be more out there, right? What's next? You guys probably recognize this picture right here. This is Troy Aikman, of course, played for the Dallas Cowboys. I just found out this week, actually, that he's from Oklahoma. I did not know that. Matt Thomason told me that. So we were talking about the sermon. He said, you know he's from Oklahoma? I was like, no, I didn't. Not from here, but that's awesome. Glad that he's an Okie. Okay. But Troy Aikman, when he won his first Super Bowl for the Dallas Cowboys, he went up to his room after the game and didn't party with the rest of the team. He went up to his hotel room alone and ordered room service and sat there and watched movies by himself. And he later told a reporter this: I kept thinking back to when I was a teenager, how I thought life's problems would be solved when I turned 16 and got a car. But they weren't. Now here I was on top of professional football, just won a Super Bowl. And I found myself thinking the same thing. Is this all there is? Winning a Super Bowl was something that I'm sure Troy Aikman had always wanted. And now he had it, and he's looking at his Super Bowl championship and thinking, I thought it would be more than this. Is this really all that there is? Alexander the Great, legend has it that after he conquered the known world, that he sat down and he wept because he realized he had no more lands to conquer. See, Alexander the Great was always asking the question, what's next? And when he thought there was nothing else next, he got depressed because he was just living for the next high, the next buzz. That great philosopher, Muhammad Ali, once said, I had the world, man. It wasn't nothing. And there is some profound insight in that statement. Because you can have the world and still feel like you have nothing. You can have the world and still feel very, very empty on the inside. And that's how Solomon feels when he writes Ecclesiastes. He has it all. He is the wealthiest, most powerful man on the earth, and yet he's looking back at everything he has achieved and he is saying, it's all so meaningless. In fact, in Ecclesiastes chapter 2, he talks about how he tried to find meaning because he realized his life was empty. And so at this point, he's gone away from God. And so he's trying to find happiness, satisfaction, contentment in the things of this world, what this culture has to offer. And so he said, I chased after academic pursuit. I went after the intellectual pursuit, hoping that knowledge would then make me happy. And so he gained as much knowledge as from this world that he possibly could. And then he realized that all the knowledge in this world still doesn't answer deep questions like, why is there pain and suffering in the world? So then Solomon says, I tried the party life. I partied like anybody. Now you might be thinking, okay, yeah, but Solomon's like a Bible character, so he probably didn't party like, some people party. I was like, no, he partied, okay? He knew how to throw a kegger. He says so if you read his writings, okay? I mean, Solomon, again, he's gone away from God at this moment, all right? And he partied. I mean, in the words of Hank Williams Jr., he cooked a pig in the ground. He's got beer on ice. All his rowdy friends were coming over tonight. And that was just about every night, okay? He partied. And all those things, well, they numbed his pain, but they didn't stop it. So he tried stuff. He had more horses and chariots and boats and clothes and jewels and gold and silver than anybody else around. But after a while, it just all starts to look the same. You can only build so many houses, right? So then he tried women, thinking that more women would make him happy. And Solomon, if you know his story in Scripture, well, he had a lot of women. In fact, the Bible says he had 700 wives and 300 concubines. Now, I don't care who you are. I don't care, man, woman, that's a bad idea, okay? I just want to tell you, that's not going to end well for you, all right? And it didn't end well for Solomon. He had all these wives, concubines, and yet Solomon says, I felt alone. See, you can be married and still feel very much alone. You can have a family and still feel very much alone if you're not living for what really matters. So then he went to his work and he said, well, I'm just gonna try to find satisfaction in my achievements, what I can earn, what I can do. Some of us today, we'd find our identities in what we do, right? And he was very successful. I've already told you about how successful he was. And yet Solomon gets to the end of his life and he realizes that he's going to die just like the poorest pauper. That when he dies, he can't take anything with him. He's gonna leave this world just how he entered it. And he's looking around at his life and he's just thinking, what have I lived for? I've searched and I've tried. I tried it, I did it, I had it. And yet I feel so empty. I feel like I have nothing. And so as an old man, Solomon writes these words, I have seen all the things that are done under the sun, all the things that are done in the world, that people on earth chase after, under the sun. And all of them are meaningless, a chasing after the wind. That word meaningless that Solomon uses there, he will actually use in the book of Ecclesiastes 38 times. It's a book that's all about searching for meaning in life. And he will use the word meaningless 38 times. It's a Hebrew word, habel. And it literally means emptiness or a vapor that vanishes quickly and leaves nothing behind. A vapor that is here one moment and gone the next. He said, that's what the things of this earth are like. It's like a vapor, here one day, gone the very next. I don't know if you have kids or grandkids that like to play with bubbles, but I do. My kids love bubbles. Even though Alex is getting older, he's like 10. Still, if we're at a place like a park or something, all of a sudden there's like a bubble machine or bubbles there, he wants to chase them. He tries to act cool, but he still does, And bubbles can be a lot of fun. And so I thought since it's State Fair Sunday, we'd have some fun this morning. So I've got a bubble machine here, and I hope this works. We had some issues in the earlier service, but I think it'll work. Let's see. Maybe? There we go, yeah. See, isn't that cool? I need one of these at my house, honestly. This is just fun. And so I want to fill this stage right now with bubbles, be surrounded by bubbles. This is cool. You probably have never seen a sermon where a preacher's been surrounded by bubbles like this, okay? But here's the thing. As cool as that was, and as many bubbles as were up here at one time, they're gone almost about as soon as they appeared. In just a second, there's not going to be any left at all. Disappear without a trace. And that's an illustration of so much of what we live for. I mean, my job and my career, everything that I've worked so hard for, it's a bill. Here one day and gone the very next. The house I live in, the car I drive, and it's an 11-year-old Camry, it's nothing special, but still. My clothes, everything that I own, it's like bubbles in the wind. Here one day, gone the very next. All the desires I've chased after, the temptations I've given into, the stuff that I've wanted, here one day and gone the next. So much of what we chase after, so much what we live for, it's habel. It's cool in the moment, might even bring us some happiness in the moment, but it just doesn't last. Solomon says everything this world has to offer, everything under the sun, it leaves us feeling empty. Now that's real encouraging, isn't it? Aren't you glad you came to church today? I mean, it's a good, positive, uplifting message. But you got to read between the lines of what Solomon is saying. What he's saying is everything under the sun leaves us feeling empty. So you got to look above the sun. See, there is purpose for life. There is meaning to life. The reason why we have this desire deep within us that says there has to be more out there is because there is more out there. And we weren't created just to be physical beings. We are spiritual beings created in the image of God. And so if you want to find true meaning and true purpose, you gotta do life with Him. Because our culture tells us that we're just a bunch of accidents. We're just matter that came together by happenstance and chance. And if you believe that, then there really is no ultimate purpose and meaning to life, because we're just a bunch of matter. We're just dust in the wind. But the Bible says we are more than matter. We were created in God's image. We are His children. And it is intellectually dishonest to say our lives matter if we're just matter. We're so much more than that. We are those who are loved and cherished by God. And Solomon figures this out. And listen to what he says. Solomon says, God has planted eternity in the human heart, meaning our hearts, our souls long for something outside of this world. We long for something beyond what we can just see in the day-to-day. We long for a relationship with the God who made us and created us. And the only way that we can find true and lasting love, joy, peace, hope, and contentment is by doing life with Him. And so what Solomon here is saying is that there's nothing wrong with having stuff. There's nothing wrong with being influential in this world. There's nothing wrong with having wealth. There's nothing wrong with having a home or an 11-year-old Camry, okay? There's nothing wrong with any of that stuff. But if you're trying to find your value and worth in those things, you're just gonna keep coming up empty. It's just gonna be a dead end. In order to find true meaning and purpose, you've got to do life with the God who created you, because temporary stuff will never satisfy our eternal desires. That's why in the Bible it tells us in 1 John, it says, the world and its desires pass away, but whoever does the will of God lives forever. So Solomon gives us this warning. He says, remember your Creator while you are young. In other words, while you still can. If you're here today, you're still young enough to remember your Creator, okay? I don't care how old you are younger today than what you will be tomorrow, okay? Remember your Creator while you are young, before the days of trouble come and the years when you say, I find no pleasure in my days anymore. It says, remember your Creator while you still can. That's how you find meaning and purpose in life. By living in relationship with the God who loves you. Because death is the great equalizer. It doesn't matter how much you have or what you do or what you accomplish. Eventually we are all going to die, and we cannot take anything that we have earned or achieved on this earth with us. The only thing that we can take with us into eternity is the relationship we have with the eternal God. And so what is the point if you gain the world and yet forfeit your soul? See, the whole reason why Jesus came was so that when we meet death, it wouldn't be a dead end for us. We wouldn't end up with nothing, but that we would be able to conquer the grave with Him. And so Solomon says, as he wraps everything up in Ecclesiastes, he says, everything you were taught can be put into a few words. Everything I've said in this book can be put in a few words. Here it is. This is the conclusion on the matter. Respect and obey God. This is what life is all about. That's it. Respect and obey God. We're not perfect. We don't pretend to be. We don't put a fake smile on our faces and act like we have life all together on our own, because we don't. No, but we live every day with God. And we know that because He is with us, we are living for something greater than just what we see around us. And we realize that most of what people live for is really meaningless. The homes, the boats, the clothes, the cars, the toys, from the who's who to the who's not, from the pedigrees to the pedicures, it is all a childish charade in the mind of God. It's a mirage that will never satisfy. It's a house of cards that sooner rather than later will come crashing down. See, I'm convinced there's a voice crying out deep within each one of us that says there has to be more to life than just what we see around us, than just what we see under the sun. And the truth is, there is. It's Jesus. Jesus is the source the meaning, the purpose to life. And he came to restore us to our Creator so that we can live life above the sun. And until you do life with him, you may exist, but you will never really live. And the reason why we're doing this You're Invited series and throwing a party every week and celebrating is because we are those who are really living in Jesus. And we want everyone to know, the world to know, that you're invited to have life in him as well. See, Jesus says, I came that they may have life and have it to the full. Don't believe the lie that you can experience life outside of him. Don't believe the lie that you can find belonging in some social clique or some fraternity or group. Don't believe the lie that you can find meaning in your stuff or your achievements. Don't believe the lie that you can find an identity on social media. Don't believe the lie that you can have life outside of Jesus. But believe that in him, all of us, every single one of us, can really live. You see, the great tragedy is not that we will have to face death one day, but it's that some people will never really live. Don't be that person. Solomon, at the end of his life, realizes what he has missed. He's missed God. And so he says, don't make the same mistake while you're still young, while you still can. Remember your Creator, because you have today, and today you can remember your Creator, and he will change your life if you will let him. Because satisfied people don't seek satisfaction. Satisfied people seek God, and satisfaction finds them. If you want to live a satisfied life today, a content life, a life of peace, you can. It's found by seeking the God who created you. Let's celebrate him today together. Would you pray with me? Father, I thank you for everyone who's here today, and we're going to have a fun time as we go out and have this State Fair Sunday. But as we experience the blessings that you've given us, the joy that we're going to experience through all the fair activities, may we remember that we are living for something greater, that is just an illustration of the joy that you want us to have from heaven. If there's anybody here today who is not living the life that you want to give them, may they seek you today. In the name of Jesus, I pray, amen.